the beginning of a new year, still just about, that it might be a good idea to think about your planning for your IELTS. As you know, I work with students all the time and I speak to IELTS students a lot. And quite often I'm very surprised that they don't have a plan or a system. And oops, sorry, it just jumped. So what I want to talk about today is planning your IELTS study. Now, a lot of students don't seem to have any plan. It seems to be very random. They wander around the internet looking for things to do. So think about another skill that you might have learned, such as driving. Now, would you just on the very first day get into the car and try to work out how to do this, how to drive? Not really. You'd probably look at what you need to do first. So, you need to get familiar with the different tools in the car, with the steering wheel, with the gears, with the brake. You need to understand a little bit about how to move it and the mechanics of the car, and all of those things are quite important before you actually get out on the road. So any skill you learn, usually you go step by step, and that's how you improve your skills. But it seems to me like with IELTS and with English language, people just leap in and try to figure it out from there. Now, because you're a child and you're surrounded by language and your brain sorts it out for you. And that takes a long time. If you think about a child learning to speak, it's quite a few years before they've figured it all out. And in fact, it's 7 years before you are totally an expert in your own language. So if you take this approach, then it could well be 7 years before you're at the level to get, say, a band 7 and 8. And I'm pretty sure you don't have that much time. So in order to avoid that situation, people that know about these things, linguists and language teachers, have created systems that you can follow. Now, these systems are starting with general English, building up your basic general English to a certain level, and then looking at different directions. So whether that is IELTS or whether that is another type of English language exam, that's the choice that you make. Now for you, I know this is IELTS. So when you're preparing for IELTS, there are two things you need to continue to do. One is to keep developing your English language, because in order to get a 7 or an 8, your English language skills need to be pretty good and pretty developed. So you need good vocabulary, you need a good knowledge of structure, you need to be a really good communicator, both in speaking and in writing. And you have to keep developing those skills. And you also need to develop good techniques for the exam. And this is especially important in the reading and listening, but also in the writing and speaking, because the examiners for writing and speaking are expecting certain things. And if you do not give them those things at that level, 7 and 8, they won't give you 7 and 8. So there's a lot that you need to consider, and there's a lot that you need to work on. So unless you have a proper plan and a proper system for doing this, then you're not going to reach your target across the board. Yesterday, I had a message from a student, and they told me that they'd been working on their reading and listening. That made me alarmed, because at this point, 2 weeks before the exam, not to have practiced any speaking at all means that the chances of that student getting a good score in their speaking are pretty low. You have to be able to practice these things. And the one mistake, if you like, that this student had made was trying to do it all by themselves. You cannot practice language alone. it figures that you need somebody else. You have to speak to other people. You have to communicate with other people. Otherwise, you're not going to develop the speaking skills you need for the exam. The same with writing. If you don't communicate your writing with other people, ideally a teacher, how can you be sure that you're going to fulfill all the descriptors to get a 7 and 8? You cannot be sure, because it is incredibly difficult, if not almost impossible, to correct your own writing. Don't do this by yourself. Get people around you who can help you. The second thing is to have a proper plan, so that every day you know exactly what you're going to do. You know which areas you need to focus on. You know which areas you need to improve. So, for example, if you're doing the reading, you should know which questions always lower your marks. So which questions do you have problems with? Those questions need more effort than the others. They need more practice than the others. There's no point just going through a reading every time, looking at your score, putting it away, and then doing another reading. You're not learning from your study, and it's really important that you learn from your study. So if you just keep doing exams over and over and over, tests over and over, but you don't actually then use those tests to improve, you're just doing mock tests again and again and again. Okay, the other problem is English language. Where are you on the English language scale? If you want to get a 7 and 8, you need to have a high level of English. Is your level of English high enough to get that score? If you don't know whether it is, then you should be testing yourself on your English language skills to see whether your level of English is the same as the score you want to get in IELTS. So if you want to get band 7, are you at, B2 or are you at C1? You need to understand that, because if you're not, then you also need to work on your English language. That's important. And the most important thing, and this I feel is a thing that students don't do at all, is you have to monitor your progress. So you need to be not just looking at doing a test, looking at the score, moving on to the next one. You need to be monitoring every day. So what did I do today? How did I get on in my listening? What was my score? And you need to have a record of that. Write down what the score was. Write down where you lost the marks. The same with reading. If you do a reading today, write down the score you got in the reading. Look at exactly where you lost the marks. And you need to understand why you lost that question. What did you do that caused you to get the wrong answer? Or what did you not do that caused you to get the wrong answer? Unless you analyze these things, you're not going to learn from them. And then you're just going to go round and round in a circle. And you'll be in what I call, you've heard me use this, headless chicken. And headless chickens just wander about. So you need to stop doing that, and you need to have something in place which is more systematic. And if you do that, then you will see your progress day by day. So you will see that today you fix that yes, no, not given. Your headings now are almost always used. Or you've had somebody check your writing and they've told you exactly what you need to focus on. Is it your cohesion? Is it your grammar? Is it that your vocabulary is not wide enough? You need to be very specific on what it is that you need to improve. If you don't address those things, then your progress in IELTS will be very, very slow. And then finally, if you have all of this in place, you will know exactly when you are ready to take the exam and get your score. There is no point in taking the exam with your fingers crossed, hoping you might get it. That's not the way to go into the exam. You don't book your exam until you're pretty sure that you can get this in the exam. And in order to be sure of that, you need to be getting consistently higher scores than the ones you need. So if you want band 7, you need to be getting band 8 in your preparation most of the time, or at least band 7.5. That will give you the cushion you need to be sure of your score. And this is how I work with students. If they want band 7, we work towards band 8, band 7.5 or 8. We work towards band 8. And if they're getting 7.5 consistently, then the chances of getting 7 in the exam are pretty high. If you're just getting 7, then your chances of missing the 7 are also pretty high. You might miss it and just get 6.5. So you always need to be aiming higher than the band you need. And you can only do that if you have a proper system in place. Okay, so think about this. Do not just do random headless chicken type preparation. Have a system. Plan that I've used with students where you can record your daily work, you can evaluate it, you can decide what needs more practice, and then if you fill this in day by day, it will help you to keep track on your preparation, and it will help you to have a proper system in place so that every day you know what you're doing, you can evaluate it, and then you can make improvements so that you can see your progress day by day and week by week. So if you want a copy of this planner for your IELTS preparation, just put IELTS planner in the comments and I will make sure that you get that. I'll contact you on Messenger and I will show you how you can get it. Okay, so think plan, think progression, think tracking, and those 3 things will help you to make sure that you can improve your IELTS and you can follow a proper system so that you'll be able to do your IELTS maybe in 3 to 6 months rather than 3 to 6 years. Okay, that's all I wanted to say today. Thank you for watching. Make sure you put IELTS planner in the comments and then I will let you have this document. It is practice and your progress, etc. And I'll make sure that you get that. And of course, as ever, if you have any challenges or anything you're worried about in your IELTS, just send me a message and then I'll try and help you with that. Okay, bye-bye everybody, and I'll see you next week on IELTS Live Thursday.